Hey guys, what is going on? Carter here. Got the video I've been waiting to make since I got this knife. First impressions of the Hinderer XM-18 3.5 inch blade. And I was going to do this skit where I pretended that it sucked, and then I was going to be like, oh, just joking, but I'm not going to do that. It's basically perfect. More or less, it's a perfect knife for, you know, the kind of knife it's trying to be, which is a tactical slash heavy duty utility blade. I mean, it's an amazing knife. It just is. All the hype, it's there. Whether or not that hype is worth X number of dollars, that's a decision that you have to make for yourself. At the end of the day, it is still just a knife, but man, is it a knife. Everything about it is just right on point. I did get it centered. Got it flipping very nicely. Thumb stud deployment, perfect. Lockup, perfect. Visually, perfect. Materials, ergonomics, all A pluses all the way around. If I did have to say one thing that I had to point out that I maybe would like to see changed, no big deal, but it is kind of weird that it uses 3 different hardware tool requirements. You've got a flat head for the main pivot, and Torx for the body screws, and then Phillips for the pocket clip. Kind of odd that he would go out of his way to do 3 very different tools required to take this completely down, but that's such small potatoes that it really doesn't mean anything. But like I said, if I had to say something, the jimping on here is like, I think, it fits in that category where 95% of the people out there would say it's perfect. Some people, the weirdos that like it super hard cut or don't like jimping at all would fall out of that category. But this really just appeals all the way around to pretty much everything you'd want in a knife like this. It's basically if Mick Strider and Chris Reeve had a baby, Rick Hinderer would be that baby. It's kind of a perfect combination of those 2 knives. A lot of the things people don't like about Striders, this addresses those. A lot of the things that maybe people say about CRKs, that they're a little too gentleman-y, which I fall into that category. I like them, but they're just a little too refined for me. I like my knives a little meaner. This, answers that in spades. Fit and finish is superb. Nothing's out of place. Everything's been thought of. I mean, one thing I like about this finish structure is you could carry this thing for a decade, and a simple re-stone washing of the blade and the frame and a new scale, and it's like brand new again. You know what I mean? So being able to maintain this knife, I mean, this would last you just forever. You pass this down to your kids and it could be refurbished and brought back to new really easily. Really easily. In fact, I've got a orange scale on the way. Went ahead and bought one. I kind of struggled with that. $65 for a scale. That's $65 I could use towards another knife or something. But I think that orange is just going to scream. And I sold my orange Strider, so I need another orange. This utilizes the stop pin is the thumb studs. So they function both as thumb studs and also stop pins. And then it has an internal stop pin here for the blade stop when it's closed. And one thing I found interesting is it's floating. And it's kind of like right in the middle here of this section. But it doesn't go all the way down through. I thought that was rather interesting. I'm not sure why. But that is something to note. I think it's changed in Gen 4. I'm not sure. And then another interesting thing is that hole right there. I wondered what that was for. There's a hole like about right here on that titanium scale. Huh, interesting. Another thing I found interesting is Teflon washers. I just assumed usually in a knife like this it's bronze phosphorus, which I usually prefer. Teflon's a little smoother, which is why this is so buttery smooth. But I just, the idea of plastic washers just never really, especially in a overbuilt knife like this, but it's fine. No big deal. I just thought it was interesting he went with Teflon instead of bronze phosphorus. Tip up, tip down, right hand carry, pocket clip, perfect. I got this lanyard hole back here. I'm not a big lanyard guy. I've tried to be, but it's just, I always end up taking them off. It has a safety choil right here. I would not consider this a functional choil. I wouldn't recommend actually using it. I mean, you can, but man, you're right up on that blade, especially if you have big sausage fingers like me. I don't think he designed that as a functional choil. I think it was always just a safety choil. On the flipper model, it's not necessary because you have the flipper to protect your hands. But on the non-flipper model, you know, it would act as a safety choil. And I gotta say, just the more I get into knives, the more I like either flippers or safety choils on them. One of the things I struggle with on Emerson's is the lack of any sort of safety choil or flipper protection. I mean, if that thing closed on you, it would go right to the bone, your hand would be disabled, it would be bad news. Anyways, I digress. Texturing, just awesome. I mean, everything on this blade is just spot on, perfect. Perfect size. 3.5 inch blade, even though actually really it's a little bit longer than that. It's more like 3 3/4 if you go all the way to where the scale meets. And then the total length is about 8.5 inches. So it's a good size knife. In my opinion, it's perfect. I mean, I haven't handled a 24. I'm sure it's you know, very nicely sized too, but man, this one just, it's really nice. I've been carrying this ever since I got it, playing with it constantly. Lockup is about 33% or so, and it does have full tang contact, so that lock bar is going to wear very nicely. It's got a lot of life ahead of it. Just absolutely amazing. Now, if you're wondering, you know, is it worth the money, the secondary market money? Only you can decide that. It is a very, very nice knife, and it gets pretty much everything perfect. But at the end of the day, it is still just a, you know, it's a production knife. So it's up to you to decide what you would be willing to pay for it. I can't answer that question for you, but all I can say is it is just amazing. I mean, Hinderer really, he, you know, he knocked it out on the park with this design. He really did. And you're going to see this around for a really, really long time. It's just an excellent, excellent knife and an excellent design. And these are going to be around for a long time. This design isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Just super, super solid. That Sponto grind he does, I love it. Just love it. Nice and thick blade stock all the way to the tip. Great slicing ability. I'm glad I was able to score this, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get another one unless prices kind of get more in line with what it is. But just right place, right time, guys. I mean, literally, I just happened to hop onto that ad 3 minutes after it went up and just went for it. Even though there's no pictures, a lot of people, you know, were surprised that it worked out for me. But, you know, that may be the case, but I did check the guy's feedback, and he had a good presence on the forums. He had a good, what's that called? Reputation, great sales, and things like that. So it's not like it's just some random guy that had no history at all. I mean, I felt fairly confident, but you know, as I mentioned, he did say it was sharpened, and there is some scratches. I don't think you'll be able to see it on here. I think it's, yeah, it's this side. There's a right above the secondary bevel. It looks like he did try to, and I don't know if it was this guy or a previous guy, he did try to freehand on a stone, it looks like. But if you actually look at the bevel, it doesn't look like he actually sharpened it. It was kind of, I'm thinking he thought, well, maybe I can make this thing even more razor sharp. Did a few swipes on the stone and was like, oh, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, and then quit. I'm thinking that the actual working edge is still factory, but that's just speculation. But yeah, it does have a few little scratches right up there, which just really, it's kind of a blessing because it just makes it easier to throw it in your pocket, right? You know, first scratch is always the hardest. And of course, throw this back into a stone wash, resharpen it. It's good as new. You couldn't even tell. But yeah, anyways, I have rambled on long enough on this knife. It's, you know, it's superb. I can't wait to get my Zero Tolerance 0561 to kind of compare the two together. Really nice stuff, guys. All right. Later.